In this session, let us try to understand how do you solve patterns program. So printing patterns is one of the very important coding challenge that will be asked for a lot of coding interviews, especially for beginners. So they can ask you different kinds of patterns, printing with characters, example, the star patterns, number patterns, different kinds of patterns they want to print just to ensure that whether you have a very strong programming experience using loops. Now, we are going to solve some of the very important pattern programs asked in a lot of interviews. Let us try to solve them.
Hey, thanks for watching our content so far. If you're new to Training Mark, we're the fastest growing technology training company and create content to help freshers like you to master the disruptive technologies like full stack development, AML, cloud, DevOps, etc. If you like the content so far, please subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon not to miss any new content from us. Like and share this video with all your friends. Let's build your career and the community together.
To demonstrate that, let me take a new Java class. I'll say that print patterns. Then let me select main method. Now first, let me try to print one pattern, something like this. Usually they'll ask with stars, right? Or with characters, whatever. So first, let me show you how do you basically print a pattern, something like this. Okay, this is called off pyramid pattern. Okay, so let me write it like this. Off pyramid pattern. Okay, so now how do you print this off pyramid, right? So now here, very simple. So here we are printing only one character, that is star. But you need to organize your code in such a way that it should print this in a pyramid pattern. The first and foremost thing you need to figure it out is how many number of lines that you want to print this pattern. Is it 3 lines, 4 lines, 5 lines? So first I need to find out how many number of lines. So from line number 1 to the line numbers, how many number of lines, you need to run a loop, right? So I need one loop which should run from this line to this line. So the first loop is for running or iterating through the number of lines. So the second loop what I need is, if you look at this, in the first line we are printing the star only once. In second line we are printing the star 2 times. In third line we are printing star 3 times. In fourth line we are printing 4 times. Means how many number of times that you want to print this star is depend on the number of lines. So when the number of lines is equal to that particular number of lines, so you have to print the star 4 times. So means what, you need to run the loop 4 times, which is nothing but equal to the number of lines. So how do you basically solve? So we need 2 for loops here. The first for loop, or you can solve this by using while, do while, or for. So whatever is convenient for you, you can do that. So I'm just taking for, or you can practice it with while or do while. Now first, let me take the number of lines as an input, right? So now I'm just using my scanner, new scanner of system.in. Now I'll say int lines is equal to sc dot next int, right? So this what is, I will just write an s out statement to be clear that we are entering the number of lines, enter number of lines, right? How many number of lines that you want. So now I'm taking a for loop, integer I is equal to 1. I'm taking a loop counter. I should be run till the number of lines, right? So this is what is the first outer for loop is. This is to iterate through the lines, right? From on to lines or whatever, right? So now I'm just using my nested for. So I will just write a block here, right? So then another for loop. So which is the occurrence, how many number of times. So when I is 1, then only once. When I is 2, then 2 times I need to. So from 1 to I. So I need in another variable, I'm taking it j, which is initialized to 1. But j will be less than or equal to, is it lines? No, it is not lines. If it is lines, suppose I take 5, and j also will print it 5 times, right? Means what, every line it will print 5 times. So I don't need that. So what I need only how many number of times my the number of lines, right? So now which line I want to print. So now I'll say j plus. So now this is just to iterate occurrences. Iterate the number of occurrences. Now what I need to do here, I need to print my star. So can I do system.out.println here? Can I do a system.out.println? Now we'll see if I do system.out.println what basically happens. Right? Now let me run my code. Guys, you cannot arrive the solution at a single attempt. You have to first understand the logic, then write some code and try to debug that code, what actually is a challenge, and then only you'll understand the problem, right? So now I'll enter 5. So now when I say 5, it is now printing all of them in the new line. So this is not the one. So what I need to do, I need to print within the same line. In order to print within the same line, what we do? We use a method called print, not println. Okay, so now if I do print, now let us see what actually happens. When I run this, now this it printed. Now let me take number of lines as 5. Now you see it printed within the same line. This is also not required. Now what I need to do, after printing this number of lines, the inner for loop, I need to take my cursor to the next line. So how do you achieve this? Just write only the system.out.println. You don't need to do any logic here. Just write system.out.println, that's it, which makes the cursor to come to the next line after this for loop executes. So when I is 1, j is 1, it prints only once. But when I is 2, it will print 2 times, then come to the new line. Then I is 3 times, then come to the new line, something like that. Now let me run this and enter number of lines as 5. Now you see it printed, but it did not print me with spaces. How do you get the spaces? Simple. You can give a space here. That's it, right? So after star, you're giving a space. That's it. Now when you run this and enter number of lines as 5 and then enter, you see we got the output. So the same thing that you can do it with while and then do while also, but for will be easy. Now let us complicate this with some more pyramid pattern. So now suppose if I want to get this output, okay. If I want to get this output, what we do? So means I'm continuing from 1 to lines, and once the lines is done, I'm now reversing it. Okay. Now this part we have already done. Okay, printing from 1 to here, this we have done. Now what I need to do, I need to reverse print this, right? And after this, every time I need to come to the new line. So what are we going to do? So I'm now going to run the same for loop. Okay, for int I is equal to, I will say lines here because I'm not decrementing it. So now I'll say I greater than or equal to 1. Then I'll say I minus minus. I'm decrementing it. Now again I'm taking for int j is equal to 1 and j less than or equal to I. How many number of times? Then I'll do that, right? So now I'll print s out, right? Print, then star space. Now after this, I need to come to a new line. So now save it and then run it here, right? Number of lines is 5. Okay, now you see 1 to 5 it printed and again 5 to 1 it printed, right? Suppose you don't want this again. So what do you do? Instead of lines, you can take line minus 1. That's it. So now run it. So enter lines 5. See now it printed only once and then it reversely printed. So this is what, how do you solve in patterns? There are different kinds of pattern challenges. You can Google it and then you will find out the problems and try to solve them using programming, right? Now the second challenge that what we see it with numbers. Example, suppose I want to print numbers something like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, or something like that, right? So now, again it is number of lines is fine. Okay, I'm just taking number of lines 5. So it will continue, right? So now the same logic here, instead of printing star, what are we doing? We are printing a number. number is incremented based on the number of lines. So lines already have. So what I do here, I'll take the same logic for int I is equal to 1, I less than or equal to number of lines, then I plus plus, right? Now for int j is equal to 1, j less than or equal to I j plus plus, okay? Now I will print as out, okay, only print the number. So number will be incremented. So I will take something like this, int number is equal to 1, right? And then I'm going to print number here, right? Plus some space, and then I'll increment number plus plus, all right? So this is a way that you print from lines. The lines is 5 here, the same number of lines what we use here. And then when I is 1, j is 1, I'm printing number which is 1. Then in the second line, every time number will be incremented. I'm not reinitializing it. Okay. You can experiment this with different numbers, guys. So now when I run this, now I'll say 5. Okay. Okay. So now the problem, okay, let me break this. I think somewhat it is going to infinite loop. I is 1, I less than or equal to number of lines, j is 1, j, oh sorry, it should be j plus plus. I have done I plus plus, sorry. Guys, here j is not incremented, so that's why it is going to infinite loop. That's what you can see here, what actually is happening here. Let me save and then run it. Okay, so then 5, enter. Okay, now it is printing within the same line. What is the problem? After this far, I need to do a println to print it in the new line. So let me run this to see the output. Now you see we got the same output. Okay, guys, you can experiment of doing it with different things. Suppose what I do here, if I control X this and then I put it in here, what basically happens? What was the difference here? So means every time this loop is initialized, okay, every time this loop runs, number will be initialized to 1. Means what? In every line it will start with 1 only. So it will print 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that is another, pattern, right? So now I think what I do here, I will just put it here itself, right? And then I'll copy paste this. Control C, and then put it here, Control V, and this will be another pattern. So 1, so this will come something like this, 1, 2, right? 1, 2, 3, and this is 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is 1, 2, 3. So how you do this? Every time the number should be initialized to 1. So what I do, instead of declaring it outer this, so I will put it inside this for, right? So means every time this nested first starts, it should be reinitialized to number. So that's what actually happens here. The number will be initialized to 1 and then will be executed. Now let me save. And then, okay, now it is saying that, hey, you already have a number here, which is already defined in this code, right? So now what I can do here, now just to say this, I'm just using this as number, a different variable. And instead of this, I'm printing this. All right, I'll save it. Now let me run this. Now enter number of lines as 5. Now you can see that this has printed me incrementing it, but this every time reinitialize it to 1. So like that, you can experiment of printing different kinds of patterns to get a very strong exposure of how nested first statements works.